Welcome to High Volume Shooter. Now, I covered this in my last episode, but this is for my YouTube audience here. I know some of you, you only consume my content on YouTube. I encourage you to go download this new podcast on iTunes, Spotify. And if you want all my content, check out my Patreon where there's a bonus episode of this new podcast, as well as breakdowns of every Warriors game and just all my content. But anyway, again, for my YouTube audience, you probably have been wondering where I'm at. It's been a couple weeks. I am no longer the host of the Hezi. So if you want to listen to me and my basketball takes on a podcast, you can find it right here. High Volume Shooter is the new podcast. Again, Spotify, iTunes, one episode a week. The second episode is exclusive to my Patreon. It's pretty much the Hezi 2.0. They're going to be a little longer episodes. There's a voicemail bag thing, but rock with me. I'm excited for it, man. So without further ado to the YouTube audience here, let's get into this episode of High Volume Shooter. Want to start this off talking a little bit about Kobe. It was the 2-year anniversary last week, and I decided to throw on Mamba. Is it Mamba Mentality? There are several documentaries on Kobe throughout his career, and they're all really good. This one was the one from Showtime, and it highlighted him going through the Achilles process, the injury and the rehab, and then it jumped around a bit chronologically, right? And I remember that injury so vividly because it so happened to be against a young Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, just the season before the first championship. Saw Jared Jack, Carl Landry out there. And I'm watching Kobe put up shots, go through the rehab process, and how devastated he was at that stage in his career, understanding what hill he had to climb, but you knew how strong his mind was. If anybody was going to do it, it was Kobe, right? And I'm watching him take shots and as he comes back in his jumper, and I'm realizing Klay, I think, is going through the same thing with his jump shot. Now, obviously, they've had the same injury. Klay, double whammies, right? We don't got to get into that. But less elevation, right? That was the thing. When he came back, there was much less elevation on the jump shot, and then there was kind of a lean, usually to the left, a lean, a tilt. Kobe is infamous for that fade and that leg kick, but prime Kobe, there was a lot more elevation on it, right? And I think we're seeing the same thing with Klay right now. Far less elevation, and then a little lean, right? When he got that big shot he hit the other Saturday night against Brooklyn in the mid, right? A little lean to it, and that's fine. He can make shots like that, especially at his size, right? And I think Klay is an inch or so bigger than Kobe. He's a little bit bigger, but what I'm getting at here is I would love to see Klay dial in that infamous Kobe footwork at the elbow, right? In that baseline post fade move. We've seen a little bit of it from him since he's gotten back, right? But if he could really dial that in and get that footwork, that pivot, and even that step through move, I think it'd be glorious for Klay to replicate that and carry that footwork, man. It would be dope. It would be fitting, right? And I also think it would greatly help the Warriors in those situations where the motion offense isn't working. Steph can't ISO and score. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, that was my thoughts. I see a lot of similarities in both their post-Achilles jump shots. So with the trade deadline, what are we, like 2 weeks away? I love how we're seeing these little blurbs on social media. Oh, we're open for business. The Knicks, if you give us a good offer, Julius Randle, yeah, you could have him, right? And everybody's kind of like saying, hey, we'll trade anybody, for the right price. And I saw Portland finally kind of announce, oh, yeah, we're open to trading CJ now. Now you're willing to trade CJ. Thanks for that, right? Like that's come on, man. That's like buying donuts from a bakery that's about to close. Why would you do that, right? They're about to be old. You can probably get them for half price. Shit, hell, if you ask nicely, you might get them for free. That's how I see it about CJ. Look, I know CJ has something left in the tank, but you talk about too late, right? His value is not nearly what it would have been if they had broken up that backcourt, let's say a year and a half, 2 years ago, when everybody was like, all right, y'all should probably do this, right? And so it's just funny to hear everybody's name kind of get put out on the table, right? So Saturday night, Brooklyn, Golden State in San Francisco, so Kyrie could play. And once again, Steph Curry looked like a mere mortal. right? That's been the trend the last 2 months. Kyrie looked really fresh, right? As he should. What has he played? Like 8 games? And Kyrie is, for all the flack I give him about his personality, I talked about it in the breakdown. He is fascinatingly amazing on the court. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I think that's how I would describe Kyrie on the court. His timing, his rhythm is so unique. It's so unpredictable, and yet he's never in a hurry. Just as a basketball purist, I won't even say purist, just as a fan, as someone who loves hoops and still tries to get in the gym and move around at my age, just watching what Kyrie does is like, dang, what? Right? He's damn near an alien on the court, and he had a big game. Let me not bury the lead. Jordan Poole showed the world how he eats ass prime time on Saturday night ABC. What was he doing on the end of the bench there? Did you see that? And Damian Lee was blushing like he had to hide his face. Andre was sitting there like, man, these young boys nasty as hell, man. Remind me not to drink out of JP water bottle. Did you see that at the end of the game? But, it was like so many games recently for the Warriors, it was just too close for comfort, right? Because Harden comes down with a mysterious hand injury just before the game. It feels like he's taking a shot at Kyrie. He's trying to give Kyrie a dose of his own medicine. He's like, oh, word, I'm not available tonight then. Like, you only available then? Well, tonight, you on your own against Steph and them boys. That's what it felt like to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching, right? But you consider no Durant, no Harden. It was like, all right, we should take care of these dudes pretty easily. And again, it was way too close for comfort. You saw Wiggins, Poole, and Otto Porter Jr. really do the heavy lifting while Steph and Klay struggled. Klay looks fine, right? Like, ultimately, we get it. Klay, he's working his way into shape. He's going to have some cold nights, and he ended up really hitting the 2 daggers at the end of the game. Steph, on the other hand, it really looks like he has lost a step right before our eyes, right? It's startling now. There's rumors of a hand injury. There's rumors of personal things, right? It's tough to theorize. Y'all know what I'm trying to say, right? So a new part of this podcast, High Volume Shooter, is voicemail bags. And if you're a patron, you can leave me a voicemail and be a part of the show. It doesn't even have to be a question. Sometimes it can be a take. Now I'm going to have to condense it and keep it efficient, but that's a new part of this new podcast. So take a listen here because this all ties together.
Yo, Al, all the way from New Zealand here. How are you? Hey, just thought that watching the games, have you noticed that Steph hasn't been playing with so much joy as he used to? He doesn't even celebrate as he used to. He doesn't run up and down the court. There's not as much joy. Love to hear your thoughts. Cheers.
And several people have reached out to me with that question, right? Because that is the biggest question surrounding the Warriors right now. Well, it is, right? I mean, there's concerns with Draymond. Where's James Wiseman? There are a lot of questions, despite the Warriors still winning a lot of basketball games, right? We've won 5 in a row. It just doesn't feel that way. The context of how it's been done, it feels real shaky, right? And then my guy Josh, who's been a patron for a couple years, sent me a message this morning, and it relates to that question right there. And so I wanted to share this with you. Yo, Unc. I've been letting this ruminate in my head for a while before I blurt it out in public. I'm pursuing my master's in clinical psychology at SFSU. Given my limited knowledge, it seems to me that Steph has shifted in behavior since his parents announced their divorce. It may not seem like a big deal, especially for someone that has seen some shit. I think this is the first major tragedy he has experienced in his whole life. This might have led to him thinking about his own family life and if it is really what he wants to do for the rest of his life. He seems to be showing signs of apathy, depression, and a higher than usual symptoms of anxiety. All this combined with the injuries has created an inferiority complex, essentially a loop of self-doubt and distracting, intrusive thoughts, leading to the biggest slump of his career by far. Let me know what you think, and please include this in High Volume Shooter if you feel it's appropriate. That was dope, right? So you got people asking the questions, people answering the questions, giving their takes, man. This is what it's about, building a community. Honestly, coming from a broken home and everyone around me coming from a broken home growing up, I kind of have dismissed the theory of the parents' divorce. Like Josh said, it may not seem like a big deal to someone who's seen some shit. I've seen my fair share of shit growing up in through my, almost 40 years here. But that doesn't mean that Steph has. And so, you know, it very well could be. It very well could be. To me, honestly, the other Aisha rumor seems like a more likely thing if it is something off the court that's bothering him. But again, that's from my lens and my view. But clearly something is going on, and you can see him there's no doubt he's not 100% physically, whether it's the hands, he's tweaked the ankles a couple times, but now there is a disconnect with the mind and muscles, and he doesn't seem to have confidence in his body out there. And now you're seeing this incongruent movements. It just looks really strange, man. And I think the consensus is shut him down. Shut him down. And I know that shuts down essentially the system itself. Jordan Poole's playing really well. Wiggins, that we can survive. If the 73 win season didn't teach them anything, like they don't need the top seed. Just keep home court, right? And like for instance, they play Houston, San Antonio back to back today and tomorrow. Just shut him down if he misses these two games, you could essentially almost get him a week of rest. But for whatever reason, your strength is your weakness, and it seems like he's just going to try to push through. But as far as the slumps, the lack of joy, I think it's a perfect storm of a lot of things, but ultimately your guess is as good as mine. So leave it in the comments what your theory is. Let's keep it appropriate. Fuck it, maybe not. But I don't know. But it's gone on long enough where I think everybody should be really concerned. I'll put it to you like that.
Hey Al, long-time patron from China. Absolutely adore your content. Usually last 3 games, people left the game when play against us. LaMarcus Aldridge, D'Angelo Russell, and Tim Hardaway Jr. And you can also see earlier this season, Zach LaVine. Last season, Jamal Murray. So my question is, do people get injured more often when they play against the Warriors? And why?
I've noticed that too, right? There is a laundry list of dudes that have been hurt at Chase Center too, right? With the Warriors. And I remember early in the season, the floor seemed to be slippery at Chase. Steph had slipped, Andre. There had been several bad slips where it was like not the shoes or a wet spot. It was like, what's going on here? And it seems like they have fixed that, whether that's like cleaning material or the finish of the floor, right? But, my initial thought would be it's just coincidence. It's just coincidence. But I'll throw out a theory, because why not, right? So the nature of the Warriors' offense and system with Steph's gravity, right, is ball movement and spacing and passing. And so I think if you were to chart this, when a team comes in and plays the Warriors defensively, they have to rotate out further. There's further closeouts and there's more closeouts because of the extra passing, leading the league in assists. The Suns might be there too. They're at the top of the leagues in assists, right? So a defense comes in and essentially has to do things they don't normally do, right? To deal with Steph in the system. And they're closing out on a possession. Instead of twice, it's 4 times. You see what I'm saying? And so perhaps that wears you down and there's some sort of fatigue, and that ups the chances of injuries in playing the Warriors. I don't know. Just a thought. Anyway, I appreciate y'all joining me for this episode. If you want the second episode this week, you can find it on my Patreon. Please subscribe, share it, join on iTunes, Spotify, all that. Continue to support your boy because I'm going to keep pumping out this content. This is High Volume Shooter. I'm out, y'all.